Hello students, welcome back. This is the third video of fifth module of Python. In the previous video, we had seen uh, two programs in which the first program was reading the text from a file which was romeo.txt and displaying those four lines on the screen of your output, and the second one was reading the image from the author's server and getting it through your program, getting it on your hard disk. So there we had used socket library. Now we will do similar programs or the same tasks but by using something called as urllib. Okay, so what is this urllib? Urllib is a library in Python which is used to request the data from the web server which is running on the internet. So it is a library which is going to help us to get the data from the server into my system. Okay, so the first program, same thing, will try to get in romeo.txt on the contents of that file on my screen. So you see the code is just 4 lines, so this is very much simpler than using socket, right? Now we have to include this library which is urllib. Now instead of importing the entire library, what I do is I just I just import whatever I need. So I need the request class which is there. Now this urllib is a library in which there will be multiple classes, so I will be interested only in this request class. Okay, so I have just used this. Then what I do is I create a file handle kind of thing, meaning the reason of writing this f hand is you have done programs using files. So in that you used to just open file and start reading that particular file. So this urllib is something like that, meaning the look of the program is something like that. It is very simple compared to your previous programs. Okay, so now to open the file on the server, what I do is I write urllib dot request dot, the method in that is url open. So I write that and I give what url and which file is to be opened. As simple as this. That's it. Now do you think that the http and other things which we had written are not used here or something? They all are needed, but it is done internally. This urllib library is smart enough to do all those connections and all that internally. Okay, so this is the simple way of opening, establishing connection to this particular file. Now I just need the for loop to just print whatever is being read. Okay, so I just say for line in f and is nothing but the file which is returned. Okay, the file handler. So whatever the file is returned, that is there in this particular variable. Then what I do is, using this for loop, I go on reading it line by line. So I fetch the first line, I print it. Now you know that I cannot print the line as it is because it is in binary. So I use this decode function to convert it to ASCII or group of characters and I print it. Also I use a strip method here because you know that the strip is used to remove white spaces both at the left or right, meaning at the beginning or at the end of the line. If there are any extra white spaces, all that is just stripped off, it is removed, and I go on printing. So the first iteration is going to print the first line, second iteration second line, and so on. So the moment the 4 lines are printed, this for loop terminates. So isn't it simple? So this is the program using urllib to fetch this romeo.txt from the author's server back on your screen. Okay, next is they may ask you something like this in the program. They may tell you to write a program to retrieve the data from romeo.txt and compute the frequency of each word in the file as follows. Okay, so you understood the problem definition, meaning what you have to do is, say if this is the file, I have to just tell frequency of each word. For example, the frequency of this word right is 1, meaning it appears only once here. But then if you see the, it is repeated once here, twice, second time here, third time somewhere here, meaning the frequency of the is 3. Okay, so that is what we have to do. Very simple to do. I import the urllib, then I create a file handle. Let me just go to the previous program again. It's actually the same thing here. I just took one line and I printed. Now you have to split that line further, some 2 lines of code I write here, I get the next program. Okay, so you see here, I create a file handle kind of thing. I open this server and I get this, I fetch this file romeo.txt, that comes in this fhand. Now to count the frequency of each word, I think we can use dictionary. So I create a dictionary. This is the way of creating a dictionary in Python. So counts is my blank dictionary as of now. I start parsing that particular file which I have received. Parsing meaning what? It is checking line by line, okay, or going into line by line. So I start that. I read the first line. I decode it. I split it, meaning I remove the white spaces. I convert it to string. Now this words is nothing but the line which is in the form of words or in the form of a string. Okay. Now each word from this words I have to extract. So I start another loop, this nested loop. I check the first word in that, and I just check, meaning I just see if that word is appearing for the first time. Okay, so for that, with respect to the string, I use get method. Now you have already studied this get method. If you recall, this get method, it returns, meaning if the key is found, if whatever I give here is the parameter is the key. So if the key is found, it returns the value at that particular key. Okay, if the key is not found, then it will return none, or it returns the default value. So this is the default value. Okay, so if the word is appearing for the first time, it gets added in the dictionary. So if you remember the contents, the first word of that romeo.txt was but. So but is added over here, and then the count 1, this 1 gets added over there. Then similarly it goes on reading the next words. Okay, so it goes on adding those words in the dictionary. Then if you see is, or if you see the, when it appears for the first time, the count will be 1, but when it appears for the second time, as I said, it returns the value stored at that particular key. So the already had 1. Okay, now it returns that 1. So 1 plus 1 will be 2, meaning the, when it appears, when it is encountered for the second time, the count is 1 plus 1, which is 2. It becomes 2. Okay, when it appears for the third time, it is found here, it returns the value which is 2 plus this 1, adds it, makes it 3, and that is what this count 3, and thus it is going to parse the entire file, and finally I can print the dictionary, which is something like this. So this is printing frequency of each word. Okay, so simple. Maybe if you want to write this task, do this task in some other language, the code would have been very huge, but this is the power of Python. Just a loop which has 4-5 lines, or totally some 5 to 8 lines of program, and you do these big tasks. Okay, now here say there are some another advantage here, or application something similar here would be, you have some social media messages, you want to see what is the discussion all about, whether say the discussion is about some subject, or the discussion is about some, say sports, which is cricket or football or something. So you take the frequency of each word which is discussed in the messages in that social media, and then whatever word are repeated multiple times, say runs or goals or say batsman or something, so those words are repeated multiple times. So you sort them in descending order, you see what are the words which are repeated, and you can summarize, right? You come to know that what the discussion is all about. So this is how we can create smart applications. Now this was to read and parse the text file. Next we will see the next topic or next program here is to read binary files using url lib. Okay, now binary files meaning the non-text file is binary, such as say image or audio or video. These are considered as binary files. Now this doesn't mean that text is not binary. Everything here is binary. Binary, we just use this word binary because these are treated little differently. Okay, I cannot uh, print those binary files in my say the output screen which we get. Okay, instead I put it in some variable or an object and then write that into a particular file. So let us look into the program which reads binary using url lib. Okay, so this is the first program, simple program. I take url, sorry, here I take this url, import this url lib, and then I open the url. So again the author's web server cover3.jpg is the file stored there. I read it. Okay, I read that file and put that into image. So now this image is nothing but it is the file which is meaning which is the image from downloaded from the author's site. Now what I do is I open a file on my machine. If it is not there, it creates this file cover3.jpg, and I open that file in write mode, and the file is binary. Okay, now what I do is I straight away write this, whatever is read I write this in image, and I use this write method, and finally I close the file. Okay, so as simple as this, opening a file, reading it. Opening and reading I have done actually in one thing only, dot read I have used here itself. So you can either do it or split it somewhere here. Next line you can say image dot read, or you do it something like this. So just 4 lines of code and we could read a file which is image from the server. Very simple, right? But then there is one problem here. Problem meaning now the file which I read, you see that the file just in one command I have read it. Now this was okay because this was just an image. Okay, but then you assume that if this is some video, it is going to be very lengthy and your program is going to crash. Okay, or if image only, if it is some high resolution image which is the size is big, and then you try to do this using just 4 lines of code, what may happen is 4 lines of code meaning once, all at once you want to fetch that image from there and get it into my program, into my local machine. This is going to be not practical. Okay, the server or the bandwidth is low, the there are memory issues. Okay, so instead what you can do is you can read the image byte by byte, or say group of bytes, and then you can store it. Okay, there is some this paragraph you can just read off. This program, it reads all the data. Okay, this program reads all the data in at once across the network and stores it in the variable image. Okay, so all at once I read, store into this image. Now image is nothing but it is in my, it is a variable, so it is in my memory. Okay, then I open cover.jpg, write the data onto my disk, write BIUs, all that is done. There was another next paragraph here which was if the file is large audio or a large video file, now this program may crash, or at least it will run extremely slowly when your computer runs out of memory, or your computer may hang up. If you are doing this on your phone may hang up if we are doing this. Instead, I can read the data in terms of blocks. Okay, so how do I do that? Do that. Let us see in the next program. This is the last program in this video. So just concentrate for some more time. So again, I import urllib. I open the I establish the connection. Open this URL, which is this, and this is the image. I create a file called as cover.jpg on my local machine, which is opened in write mode. It is binary file. I take another variable as size, which is not needed if you want to see how many characters are copied. So for that we have just used this variable size. While true, which is infinite loop, I have opened. Now what I do here is image, which is the file handle which is opened. So I take that file handle and then I go on reading this number of bytes. Okay, previous program what I had done was I had used that write here itself. Okay, sorry, I had used that read here itself. This read I had used here itself, so I was reading the entire file at a time. But now what I do is I read these 100,000 or 1 lakh bytes at a time as a block. So if you feel it should work for Indian scenario, you can just remove this 2 more zeros from here and you can go on reading 1000 bytes at a time. Okay, Indian scenario meaning the less bandwidth, or we are still at 4G. So okay, forget all that. So I read 1000 bytes, I store that into my variable which is info. I check if I have come to an end, meaning if number of bytes are 0, I just break, come out of it, or I just continue. I just go on accumulating the size into size. I go on accumulating the information into my file. So file dot write I use. What is this fhand? It is nothing but the file handler which is on my local machine. So I go on reading some 1 lakh bytes, store into the file, read another 1 lakh bytes, store into my file, and so on. I go on doing it. So once it comes to an end, once there is nothing to read, I come over here, I print the number of bytes which are copied, which is this, and finally I close the file. Okay, now if you want to see what is the file, this cover.3 on my local machine, you can just go to the location where this program is placed, and there you can just see for a file which is what is the name which we have given? Yeah, the same name, cover3.jpg. You can just open that file and see what is being copied. Okay, so this is what was planned for this video. So hope you have understood, hope you practice all these programs. These are very important and very simple, and with respect to VTO exams, I can say that these are very easy or fixed questions kind of thing. Okay, thank you.